This is the Steve Gruber Show.
Yes, it is. Welcome to another brand new hour of the Steve Gruber Show. Glad to have you here, fighting for you from the Foxhole of Freedom every single day. I mean, the world seems to be a crazy place. You need to know who's going to be standing shoulder to shoulder with you when it really matters most. Here are three big things you need to know this hour. Number one, ICE has captured a violent illegal alien that whipped a woman with an electric cord before throwing her off a building. Joe Biden let this convicted killer stay in America. We have to do better. Number two, Republicans say they will have a health care plan for everyone to see by December. I hope that's true. Could be a real game changer and put the free market back in play and make affordability front and center. And number three, speaking of affordability, that is the issue that will almost certainly decide the midterm elections next year. I mentioned it off the top today. It got President Trump elected. People are demanding results. The fact of the matter is it also got Zoran elected. It's an issue that drives voters of all backgrounds. So let's dig a bit deeper, because here's the truth, my friends. Gen Z voters that powered Donald Trump to the White House, their support for him, according to Mark Mitchell Rasmussen, has dropped from the mid-50s to 35%. They don't care who fixes the problem of rent, inflation, wages, job opportunities, the chance to buy a house. They don't care who solves it, and that's dangerous. Then you end up with radical leaders like Mamdani, who I think will be of no help to New York City. In fact, I'm certain of it. And here's the problem. People on high keep saying, well, things are fine, things are fine. To those that are voting, to those between 18 and 30 for sure, they don't see it. They still have roommates at the age of 30 because they can't pay the rent. That's a problem. Home ownership doesn't happen until people are in their late 30s now in America. Not okay. 50-year mortgages, not the answer, I don't think. But meanwhile, Secretary Scott Bessent says the economy is improving. Here's what he says.
What we're not going to do is what happened under the Biden administration, where the administration and the media gaslit everyone and said, there's a vibe session. You don't understand how good you have it. And what happened then was we had the worst inflation 40 or 50 years, 22, 23%. But the basket of goods and services for working Americans was up more than 30%. And what we're seeing is we had to stop the increase first. Now we are starting to see prices level off, come down. Gas interest rates are down, so mortgages are down, and I think we are making substantial progress on that. And I think over the coming months and the next year, prices are going to come down.
Yeah, well, over the next year. A year from now, we'll be through the midterm elections, Secretary Bessent. I don't know if we're in good shape by then. The question of affordability, that is front and center. Economic issues drive elections, and they will drive people to make radical decisions, as we saw in New York City and elsewhere. It's what drove people to vote for Donald Trump. They just want somebody to fix it. Fix it. It can come from the right. It can come from the left. They don't care. They want it fixed. Here's the question of affordability with the Secretary. Listen.
We inherited an affordability crisis. We have slowed the price increases down, and they are going to continue to slow down, and that real working class wages will go up, and that will address the affordability issue. And, I think this is what Democrats are afraid to do. They've gone to the courts to try to stop President Trump and this great economy. That hasn't worked. They get overruled at SCOTUS. We go to the media, who carries their water. That hasn't worked, so they shut down the government and hurt the economy. Let's keep the economy open, let our policies kick in, and let's see if what I just talked about, let's see if those two lines cross. Costs come down, real wages go up, and then we can have an election next November.
Yeah, next November. Kevin Hassett, he's the Council of Economic Advisors director. He says there are ideas to help Americans with affordability. One of those ideas, of course, is to turn over your health care money not to the insurance companies, but to the American people with health savings accounts. I think that is a great idea that needs conversation. I think it'll have bipartisan support. Look, if Americans can force the insurance companies to compete for your business instead of just being rewarded with government subsidies, it changes the landscape. Insurance companies have been having record profits for years now, not because they've earned them, but because they're directed by government mandates and subsidies. It's time to fix that. It's time to make insurance companies compete for your business again. All right? And how about the idea of a $2,000 check to American taxpayers, each one, to Americans? How about that for an idea? Listen.
What's more likely, a $2,000 tariff rebate check or a 50-year mortgage?
Well, you know, I think that they're both really good ideas. The fact is that we've got a big reduction in the deficit. And the interesting thing is that it's not just because of tariff revenue. We've had a big positive shock to income taxes as well because people's incomes are so much higher. And so back in the summer when we were saying that for now, let's think of the tariff revenue as something that reduces the deficit, there's more room even for deficit hawks to think about rebate checks like the president talked about because we've actually done such a good job cutting spending. And the supply side effects, the Laffer curve effects of the tax cuts have actually made revenues go up. We're up about $200 billion relative to last year in revenue as well. So it makes room for it. And in terms of the 50-year mortgage, the bottom line is that it would reduce the monthly payment. We've got a real problem in America that too few people are getting that first home, and the age of first-time home buyers has gone up by about 10 years over just the last few. And so President Trump is really focused like a laser beam on trying to come up with something that addresses that.
Yeah, there you go. Meanwhile, Congressman Tim Burchett, we just talked about this health care thing. I want to bring it back to that, all right? He says it's time to move forward on cutting health care costs with President Trump's idea. I think it's a smart idea that is worth conversation, and here is part of that conversation.
You know, it seems kind of crazy, but in the future, maybe we ought to bring the patients and the doctors to the table and tell the insurance companies they can go take a flying leap because they've screwed this program up by their greed and the politicians' greed who are getting funded in their campaigns by them. That's what needs to happen, ma'am. And we've got plans out there that'll work, I believe, if we could just get them to the table. I think we've had enough hearings. I think we need to just start bringing stuff to the table and start voting on it. That's what America elected us to do. And I think both parties would have to suck it up a little bit. I think
Right.
Everybody talks real tough on this issue, ma'am, but nobody wants to do anything about it. In reality, the leadership's afraid of it. They want to kick that can down the road, but the American public is suffering in both parties. Poor folks, black folks, white folks, everybody's suffering under this system, and we can do a whole lot better.
And we can do a whole lot better. That's a fact. Is it the solution? I think it might be. Health savings accounts that can only be used for insurance premiums, prescription medications, doctor's visits, whatever. That's what it's for, nothing else. Boy, the insurance companies will be scrambling for your money. It's the Steve Gruber Show. I'll be right back.